Change your diet, change your life, change the planet.
Hi everybody. I'm having one of those days today. It's actually been going on for a couple of days. It feels like I'm moving through frozen molasses. No matter what I try to do, I just can't build up the desire or motivation to do anything. So I thought I would talk about that today, because I'm still getting things done. I'm still getting into action and getting engaged, but there's no motivation, there's no desire, there's no spark that's being ignited. So what do you do when you're in a situation like this? When you have no interest in doing anything? And you can look around at all the things you have in your life, and you can say, well, I'm grateful for this, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for this, and it has no effect. And it's not as if you're being selfish, it's not as if you're being spoiled, it's not as if you are ungrateful, it's just that you're in molasses in January, as they say in Vermont. And it's really, really hard to get moving. I know many of you have days like this as well, and you feel stuck, and you feel like you can't do anything because you're not inspired to. You don't have the motivation. Like, I'd do something if I was motivated, but I'm just not motivated. You don't need to be motivated or inspired to get into action or to get engaged. I'm going to go through my process now of how I'm about to do that, because I've been working myself up to the point of getting something done. And one of the things that I'm getting done is making this video. And then when this video is done, I'm going to move on to the next thing. So I'm going to lead you through that process now, because I know that many of you deal with this. Well, the first thing that I do is to be really, really gentle with myself and just let any expectations I have for the day go. Let them go. If I wanted to go for a run today, let it go. If I wanted to make a video today, let it go. If I wanted to do some research or some writing, let it go. Let it all go. And just be really, really gentle and kind and say, okay, this is where we are. We're having one of those days, so let's start there. Let's start here with no motivation, with no interest. And that's okay. It's okay to start there. And then the next thing that I do, I ask myself, what one thing would you like to do today? What one thing might make you feel good if you got it done? Let's work towards doing that one thing, and only that one thing. And notice how I use the word let's in there. Because I've got these voices that I've created. I've got the loving parent, I've got the loving child, and I even have a coach voice. And that coach voice is very similar to the loving parent. It guides me through this process. And there's a we inside of my head. There's the part of me that feels like molasses, and then there's the part of me that exists outside of that that says, okay, let's see what we can do here. Rather than, I'm in this all alone. By creating these other aspects of our personality, which we already have anyways, we're all talking to ourselves in our head. We all have different voices that we talk to ourselves in. But by giving them a name and giving them a job, they can actually become really, really helpful rather than beating you up, which is what they often do. So once you figure out what the one thing you want to do today is, make the first step as easy as possible. Because it's the first step that's going to be the hardest. Because when you're in molasses and you have no interest and no desire, and you're like, what's the point? That first step is going to require a massive amount of energy if it's a standard size step. So we have to make it really small, and we have to make it really easy, and we have to find a way to inject some positivity or some pleasure into it. And I found that rewarding yourself before you take that first step is much, much, much more powerful than rewarding yourself when you finish the task. Because you're going to be stressed all the way up until that point, and then when you do reward yourself, you're probably going to overindulge in whatever the reward is, because now you're trying to deal with the stress. But if you reward yourself first, and the step that you take is really, really small, you don't need that much of a reward, just a little bit of a push, a little bit of something sweet. One of my big treats these days is applesauce with cinnamon. That's a treat. So it's like, okay, I've got to go do this. Let's have some applesauce and cinnamon first. Puts me in a little bit better mood, And then that step becomes easier. Another thing you can do is put on some music that you know is going to inspire or uplift you. Just a little bit. You don't need to be jumping up and down with joy, but you want to make that first step a little bit easier. Anything you can do. As you're moving towards that step, as you're in the process, tell yourself to slow down. Don't rush. It's okay. Take your time. What's it feel like? What do you notice as you take this step right now? What do you hear? Can you smell anything? And just get really present to that step as you take it. Don't get caught up in the mental timeline of, okay, this step is going to lead to the next one, it's going to lead to the next one, and eventually after a few hours I'm going to get this thing done. Don't go there. Instead, focus on that first step and what's showing up. Not what you think about the first step, but what you're experiencing while taking that first step. Really get in there and explore the saturation of that experience. So if you're having one of those days or weeks or months where you have no interest or desire and it feels like the whole world is frozen molasses, pick one thing that might make you feel better. Figure out what the first step is. Give yourself a little reward and then gently talk to yourself and be present to the process as you're taking that first step. That works every time for me. And I'm not going to tell you that it's going to erase the lack of motivation, but it does get me engaged, it does get me in gear, and it gets me moving towards a goal. And if I complete that goal, I'm going to feel a little bit better, and maybe some motivation will show up. Okay? So give that a try. I'm off to take some more baby steps now. I love you. Bye.